continuing with our theme of tackling gigantic and weighty concepts in a very efficient time, as opposed to our first 2 weeks. Today we're going to explain the entire phrase Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, and we have a nice interpretation presented to us on a silver platter by the Vilna Gaon. So this is his commentary on the pasuk in Devarim, Hashem Elokeinu Diber Elenu B'Chorev Lemor. Hashem our God spoke with you on Horeb, saying. This is at the beginning of Devarim. Moshe opened his speech with these two names, Hashem Elokeinu, because they encompass the entire Torah and all of the divine names. For HaKadosh Baruch Hu is hidden in terms of his essence, but revealed via his actions. Therefore we say in each and every blessing, second person and third person terms. So this is what we talked about last week, right? Is that Hashem is completely unknowable in terms of his essence, but he's knowable and accessible via his actions. Okay, but now the Vilna Gaon introduces a new concept. He says, the Shem Havaya, the Tetragrammaton, the four-letter name of God, Yud Kei Vav Kei, indicates his essence, blessed is he, whereas Elokim indicates his Hashgacha, his divine supervision over his creations. Therefore, Elokim is the only name written throughout the account of creation, right? Because the account of creation talks about how God relates to his universe, and so it uses the name that talks about God's governance of his universe. Within Hashgacha, within divine providence, there are two concepts. Hashgacha Klalis, the laws of nature, which relate to all of his creations and the entire universe in general, and Hashgacha Pratis, individual supervision, through which he supervises Israel alone, and to which the name Elokim corresponds. Therefore, we say in every blessing, Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam. That is, Hashem, in terms of his hidden essence, Elokeinu, our God, in that his Hashgacha extends to us in particular, and King of the Universe, Melech HaOlam, that even though he supervises us in particular, he also supervises the entire world in general and rules over them. So, like I said, very clean, nicely packaged interpretation here. When you say Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, you should say Hashem, have in mind God, that you're referring to God's unknowable essence. Elokeinu, our God, the fact that God relates to us on a particular level, Hashgacha Pratis. And Melech HaOlam, the fact that God is king over the world, meaning he relates to the rest of the world through the laws of nature, which is Hashgacha Klalis. Okay? Very, very nice explanation there. Okay, the Tur references the same ideas, but in a different way. He collapses everything into the name Yod Kei Vav Kei. So he says, first he has an introduction. One should have the intention in his blessings for the meanings of the words that he utters with his mouth. And when he mentions the name, he should have the intention for the way it is read, with Aleph Daled, which means lordship, that he is Lord of all. Furthermore, he should have the intention for the way it is written, Yud Kei, i.e. the Tetragrammaton, which means existence, for he was, he is, and he will be. So, as we know, the name of Hashem is written out Yud Kei Vav Kei, but we read it as Aleph Daled Nun Yud. And the Tur is saying you should have in mind both. You should have in mind Aleph Daled Nun Yud, that God is the master or the Lord of everything, which he doesn't explain what that means, but I think it's reasonable to assume that that refers to Hashgacha, the fact that God has general providence over the universe and specific providence over Israel. And you should have in mind Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is God's essence, which means existence, he says, and it's related to Haya Hovev Yeh, he was, he is, and he will be. We'll return to that in 1 second. Let's just go his explanation for Elokeinu. And when he mentions Elokim, or really Elokeinu, he should have the intention that he is powerful and strong, and he is omnipotent over the higher and lower existences. Because Kel means power and strength, as in Es Eleh Haaretz Lakach, the mighty of the land he took. So Kel, Elokim, those literally mean power or forces, force. And therefore we should have in mind that God is our power, that he has power over everything. All right, going back to the Tur's explanation of the Shem Havaya of Yud Kei Vav Kei, I think kids seem to be taught that it means Havaya, it means existence, and Haya Hovev Yeh. The Rambam writes something slightly differently in the More Nevuchim. He says, all the names of God may be exalted that are to be found in any of the books that are derived from actions. There is nothing secret in this matter. The only exception is one name, namely Yud Kei Vav Kei. This is the name of God, may he be exalted, that has been originated without any derivation, and for this reason is called the Shem HaMeforash, the articulated name. This means that this name gives a clear, unequivocal indication of his essence, may he be exalted. Perhaps it indicates the notion of a necessary existence according to the Hebrew language, of which we today know only a very scant portion, and also with regards to its pronunciation. So I happen to think that the Rambam actually is arguing with the Tur. The Tur says, the Shem Havaya comes from the word Havaya, existence or being, and is related to Haya Hovev Yiheh. The Rambam says that the Shem Havaya has been originated without any derivation, and he says perhaps it means necessary existence, but we don't know because we don't know Hebrew. It's clear the Rambam does not hold it means Haya Hovev Yiheh, because if it did mean that, then he would say there is a clear derivation from it. It's related to existence, and he wouldn't have to speculate that it means necessary existence. So it gets down to the same idea that we're talking about God's essence, but it's a machlokus about how Yud Kei Vav Kei means God's essence.